And good evening, viewers, and welcome to the Lall show where he tells it as it is. Tonight he has a song for you guys, as he said. During tonight's proceedings, if time allows, you'll be able to call in, and you can do that on 226-7453 or send a WhatsApp message on 622-2222. Mr. Lall, you can go ahead and tell the people what you have in store for them.
Thank you, Suan.
You're welcome.
You did not introduce yourself. You forgot.
Those that don't know me, I am
All right.
welcome, and your regular moderator as of now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Every night I go home, I just shout good night to my neighbors. If they're in a good mood, them just respond. If not, them just play sleep for me and don't ever answer. I wonder if you all just do that to me when I say good night. I don't think you guys gonna play sleep on me. I don't want to believe that. You guys are too wonderful to do me that. With all this information I'm bringing to you guys every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So let me say good night to all you wonderful people from right across this hemisphere, this world, who are listening to me tonight. Before I get down to this short program that I have for tonight, let me share a joke, but it's a story we are carrying tomorrow. You can get the full story in the Kaieteur News tomorrow. But for me, it's a joke. So allow me to share that with you. our opposition leader Joseph Harman and Comrade Ramjatan begged the US ambassador to be a news source for the opposition. They say that the local media is very unhelpful to them. So they're begging the US ambassador to help get their message across, wherever it is, whether in Washington or wherever that is. Can you believe that, guys? That's a story we are carrying tomorrow. They are begging the US ambassador to help them to spread the opposition newscast, because the local people, the local media, is not helpful to them. If you guys remember, I have talked umpteen times about press conferences they're not holding. And whenever they hold one, they says nothing beneficial to any one of us. And there's another story. The PPP and the PNC is incapable of leading Guyana, the Guyanese people, to safe and a prosperous future. An international lawyer says that. That's two of our stories we are carrying tomorrow. So please get a copy of the Kaieteur News and read the full details in it. Like I said, tonight is a short program, so let me get going with it. You ever hear the saying, you just hang your hat where your hand can't reach? Yeah, I know plenty people who did that. Hang them hat where the hand can't reach, and all of them run bankrupt. There's another saying, those who forget the lessons of history are bound to repeat it, bound to live it again. Tonight, I want all of you to listen carefully how David Patterson from the coalition government and Bharat Jagdeo from the PPP government wants to take Guyana and all of us to the pawn shop, to Panwi, with a business them knows nothing about and telling us they think it gonna work. Them going and indebt this nation with over $1 billion US, and David Patterson saying he think it's a viable project. He think it gonna work. Our Vice President Jagdeo, on the other hand, say he don't have to think. He know it gonna work. Have you ever asked yourselves why y'all salaries can't raise or would never raise soon? It is because the little money we getting from the gold and the other sectors going to pay loans. What both governments borrow from China and elsewhere for build projects, what them think gonna make money for Guyana, like the 200 million Skeldon plant, the US 150 million airport, in debts today. Do you know we are still living on borrow money on to this day? Yes, every year budgets, we just have borrow money inside. 100 billion alone in the 2021 budget is borrow money. They want to bite more than them can chew. And when them done chew up with the budget and the loans, them just spit out the rest for us to chew. You know what I mean? Them eat them belly full fuss with the loans and the borrow money, then throw the crumbs at us in them projects them think are we gonna benefit from. Now them got me and you thinking how to pay back those loans because it's not them pocket it coming out of. No, not them own. Ours. Guys, brothers and sisters, have you ever asked yourself why them raised gasoline last week? It's for reach them loan payments. Wow. It's so when you are big. You just hang your hat where your hand can't reach them. Them alone knows everything. Yes, them alone. Them is the best thing ever happened to Guyana. Did somebody say take a breath just now? Glenn?
Yes.
All right, thank you. What you're about to listen to, brothers and sisters, is coming from the mouths of our leaders, as well as international oil experts in their own words. So please, listen carefully, and after they speak, I will explain it in simple layman's terms for those who didn't understand fully what they're telling us about this mega gas to shore project Guyana will ever see. This gas to shore project they plan to bring in, which them think gonna cut like bill in half. Ever dream or think you're gonna win a lotto? You guys ever dream or think you're gonna win a lotto?
No.
Hey, a lot of people I know does. Everybody got dreams. Well, that is how our leader is living, in dreams. This was an interview done on December 31st, gone, with one of my journalists, Kiana Wilberg. The things that came out during that interview has been playing a song in my mind ever since. A song that I love to hear. And I think you would like to hear it too. Because I think we have a common understanding of each other. Please, Raj, please play part of that song. I will play the song in parts. It's a beautiful song, so I can explain the words just in case you don't hear it properly. Once again, good night to all of you. Could you play
Thank you
part
very
of the
much.
song?
Speaking about gas procurement, and that is a sector which was under my direct control up to 2018 before the establishment of the Department of Energy. First, let's say this. We have to always put gas or power in the context of where Guyana is at the moment. At the moment, we produce 100% of our electricity from hydrocarbons, heavy fuel oil, which is, is a major pollutant, the burning of these in production of these. Currently, we, as a country, we still do have marginally thin reserves, electricity reserves. So obviously, and we have a very fragile infrastructure. So the idea of bringing gas to shore for the sole purpose of generating electricity was one which I myself personally championed as an economic venture. I mean, it is cheaper. It would be very much cheaper. In environmental, it is it's not renewable, but it's clean. It's considered clean energy. And secondly, that this gas to shore project would have been the very first big project from the oil and gas discovery, which would have direct impact, on the lives of all Guyanese. Therefore, as you're aware, Kian, I spent a tremendously long time doing several studies, engaging several international institutions, the World Bank, IDB, the government of Japan. We independently commissioned several studies to ensure that at least this very first project, if ever executed, would be successful. Of course, with the establishment of the Department of Energy, all the work was handed over to that agency in August 1, 2018. But at the time of August 2018, we had furthered several studies. The only outstanding issue was the question of a location. We had approached the World Bank as well as the Japanese government to lend us experts, maybe just like Thomas, on the question of the pricing, the cost. I mean, we had advanced with Exxon Mobil, the government's position, my position at the time, that we should only be repaying them for the transportation of the gas, which is the pipeline, not the gas itself. I mean, that was, and at the time, while that discussion was going on in 2017, 2018, Exxon was under tremendous pressure internationally from persons such as newspapers as yourself, as well as Melinda, her group, on the equity of the contract. So they were very amenable in 2018 at that particular time to consider our proposal, which is the question of the only cost for the gas that can be recovered was for the cost of the pipeline coming to shore. And we also, but knowing that we had a capacity deficit in the sense of the financial, and we were at a disadvantage, we asked the World Bank to present the team and the Japanese government. And I do think those teams were actually hired, but they went to the Department of Energy. Unfortunately, I am unaware at the extent, I'm unaware of what transpired from 2018 to now. But I knew at the time that ceased being with us, we were very close to an arrangement to have the gas come to shore. And we were talking about the cost. Well, of course, the cost per cubic meter that the government was going to pay was just obviously the transportation cost to recoup the cost of constructing the pipeline. We had several various theories and recommendations: who should own the pipeline, who should build the pipeline, and those things like that. And that was being considered. We also had several advice. I mean, Tom will tell you on the question of, obviously, at the time, in 2018, it was 30 million cubic feet per day. Obviously, Guyana would not be able to utilize that immediately as soon as we land the pipeline. So therefore, the recommendation of deferred allocation, deferred, because of the take or pay issue. I mean, obviously, they would like to recoup the money for the pipeline as soon as possible. But experts were already there advising us on the process in which we can continue and how we can progressively build out the electricity sector. So our idea was actually to have a discussion. We also had a recommendation on procurement. It was recommended that we go to for the actual generations and those things, that we go to public procurement as opposed to entering into sole sourcing with any one engine manufacturer and those things like that. So at July 31st, 2018, the government's concern would have been the infrastructure to distribute the electricity, which is on the GPL, and we would follow the advice of the experts in landing into site and then converting the natural gas into electricity. So, but we do think it's a viable project. I mean, obviously, you know that for electricity purposes, Guyana's electricity needs have been growing 7% per annum since 2015. As I said, as everyone can know, frequently we have a lot of power outages purely because of the poor state of our grid, as well as the lack of generating capacity in the country. So we will be supporting any project that brings power to shore for the purpose of generating electricity. And finally, Kiana, I want to say that unlike other persons, I never viewed this as a single standalone project. I viewed it as a one of many in whichever form that we would do. But obviously, so we need to maximize the amount of gas we're getting, the associated gases we're getting from these fields. So we viewed it as one project, primarily to ensure that we can benefit the country and move our trajectory from just where we are at, provide cheap electricity to boost and to kickstart some sort of industrialized growth, and obviously to the benefit of all.
Hi, brothers and sisters, I'm so happy that you have heard David Patterson in his own words singing this gas to shore project he and his coalition government had planned to throw on us. I'll try to explain in simple words what he means. He said the project was directly under his control until 2018. He said right now, all the electricity that we have, that we does make, does come from the heavy oil we buy from overseas. He said we barely got extra electricity in the country, and GPL power lines we just use already in a terrible state, and a fragile infrastructure we have. That's what he said. He was very proud to say that he championed this project because it's a good thing. Yes, it's a good thing. He said it's going to reduce your light bill. It's the same thing the Vice President Jagdeo said. He said how this thing is the first big project that will benefit Guyana. Patterson said, them do enough studies with several countries, you heard him yourself, but never say a single word if he do the right study, the money study, the win or lose study, the financial study. Jagdeo said, Exxon did one. Exxon did one for them own self. Guys, what kind of studies Patterson do when he ain't even know where the project going? Tell me, in the Creator's name, you engage foreign countries for help you do studies, and you ain't even know where the project landing? So what kind of studies he really did? If he can't tell the people how long the pipelines will be, where this pipelines will land, how they will know this thing is affordable. You tell me that, guys. He accepted that our electric power lines are messed up. So when you bring more electricity into it, what do you think gonna happen, guys? If you know a piece of rope is rotten, you're gonna put more weight on it? You tell me that, man. What do you think will happen with it? I would like to ask Jagdeo and Patterson that. You got rotten power lines, and we can't handle what we're giving them right now. Right now, as I speak, we're losing 36% from those lines, from the power we're generating. When you bring more, you tell me, man, these rotten lines can handle it? How much will you lose? This is the first thing you got to think about. Man, it's only a fool. Or is only a fool going to be jumping around like monkeys, trying to push another $1 billion for a project like that on us? You can't have no brain. No feasibility study done. You got rotten infrastructure. All your power lines right across this country, you're losing 36% of your power that you're generating now. What do you think will happen when you put more on it? Listen more what he said. The guy said the gas is for electricity alone. Then he said, no, there will be excess gas coming in. And we got to figure out what to do with them. But he ain't figure out or figuring out the additional costs for do what he got to do in order to make money from the excess gas. These are smart people we're dealing with. Huh? Maybe he and Jagdeo will drink the excess gas because they have no use for it. And I don't think you could throw it away. He said, them done talking to Exxon and working out a plan on how to pay for the pipeline for the transportation costs. This is the same kind of plan what Jagdeo and them talking about. Exxon give to Ghana that got them balling right now. You will hear in your own ears what an international lawyer, Miss Melinda Janke, how she dealt with it as you listen the song, the same song that I'm going to play further in this program. Patterson said he back in anything that would bring electricity to shore. When I hear these chaps talk, I can only conclude that they don't care if them grandchildren die with debt on their backs. They done ready to support anything that bringing gas to shore. He also sing, and you hear him for yourself, he think this is a viable project without any evidence whatsoever. Yes, he think. You know, I think. Yes, I think a Crapo can be the next president of Guyana. What do you guys think? This is the kind of no-brainers we got in this land. That is what he said there. But I want you to listen carefully to how a financial analyst from the US responded to him. Could you please play the next song?
Well, on the gas situation, it'd be just a couple of quick ones. I mean,
Sure.
I reckon desire to use the resource in the way it was described, but it's based on kind of a view of oil and gas markets that maybe existed 10 years ago. Right now, the world has an oversupply of gas. And there's no real need for it in the world market system, and that's largely because the price of renewable, well, largely because of oversupply, but also in many places that we're in 30 countries around the world, and we don't know of any place in the world where an aggressive renewable energy plan would be more expensive than even the gas infrastructure costs that Mr. Patterson was speaking to. And the other one, I have to be frank. I'll be frank about this. The way that the contracts were negotiated for this oil endeavor gives me no confidence that the country has an ability to negotiate a pipeline and power plants and other infrastructure on a price that would actually be affordable. I have no evidence of that. We have no evidence of that. We have evidence to the contrary. And I'm not sure, but I didn't hear whether or not there was a comparable analysis of whether or not there was a cost comparison between, where the renewable markets are and where the and how the arrangement would be in Guyana, the proposed arrangement. So I would say that you have a real a viable alternative that doesn't bring with you the whole host of issues that you've raised and which Guyana is unprepared to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Guys, that gentleman named Thomas Zanzillo, he's a US financial analyst. He was responding to David Patterson on the same program. The first thing, let me break down what he said. The first thing the man tell Patterson, he does not understand the industry. And that right now the world has an oversupply of gas, too much gas. And the way Patterson thinking is 10 years. He has a 10 years mentality. And added to that, he said, he doesn't know of any place in the world where projects using energy from the sun, wind, and water would be more expensive than the gas plant alone. The man said he got to be frank with this. He said, and I got to laugh, the way the oil contracts were negotiated gives him no confidence that Guyana, let me put David Patterson and Jack Dale, has the ability to negotiate on a pipeline, a power plant, and other similar infrastructure on a price that would actually make a profit. But his word he used is affordable. You heard him clearly. The man said, I have no evidence of that. A matter of fact, the man said that they have evidence to say that Guyana cannot do it successfully. So, who are the experts that Patterson getting advice from or helping them to negotiate this project with Exxon? They don't mess up the contract. The man said he didn't see or hear them compare the cost of this project to the cost of any project that would bring electricity cheaper to Guyana. The world already agrees that solar, hydro, and wind are the cheapest, and everybody is going for that right now. The man said there is no confidence that the country has the ability to negotiate a contract for a price that is cheaper than solar. The man said that Guyana ain't even know what I'm getting to. Now, please play the next song.
I think the idea of using the gas to bring it to shore is completely economically and environmentally irresponsible. I've got two things to say. One is that this is going to result in massive debt. And secondly, that at the moment this is illegal. So under Section 17 of the Environmental Protection Act, any policy decision that might have an impact, a significant impact on the environment, has to have an environmental impact assessment. That was not done. So before there is any move to do this gas, there needs to be an environmental impact assessment, and the decision to do the gas should be quashed. We shouldn't even be paying attention to that. There must be an environmental impact assessment first. Secondly, environmentally, gas is not clean energy. I don't know who put this myth out, but with gas, you get methane leaks, which are 80 times more dangerous than carbon dioxide, which is the major greenhouse gas. So you're contributing to climate change in a country that is particularly vulnerable to climate change. We have already said that Guyana will go to 100% renewable energy by 2025. That's a policy decision. There is also a submission that Guyana has intended nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement, which is a legally binding treaty, where Guyana has said we will go to 100% renewable energy by 2025, provided that we get the financing. Now we hear there is no financing for renewable energy, but there is financing for what is essentially a lunatic gas project. $400 million for a pipeline that is very dangerous. The comparison is between the current supply of energy, which is a heavy fuel oil, which is a terrible supply, and renewable energy. Where is the economic analysis that shows that natural gas is better for Guyana than renewable energy? There has been a complaint to the United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination because the gas project will come to the coast, and it appears that it will only supply people along the coast unless Guyana is going to invest in massively expensive infrastructure. But the debt, the money to pay for this, burdens the entire country and therefore puts a disproportionate detriment on the Amerindian people of Guyana. What steps are being taken to protect them from what is really an economically foolish proposition? The associated gas under the contract is supposed to be supplied free of charge, although there are massive expenses on getting it to the coast and then putting it into the infrastructure. For the non-associated gas, there is a formula. Obviously, before you do a gas project, you must know what is the source of your gas, what is the cost. I've asked Minister Barrett, what gas are you using or proposing to use? He doesn't know. After 2 months, he comes back to me and says, your questions are technical in nature and we will endeavor to answer them at a later stage. How can you possibly decide to do a gas project and you don't know what gas you're going to use? So it seems to me that we're being driven to use the gas because it's being flared by ESSO, not because there is a reason, not because Guyana needs the gas, because we don't. We're going to go 100% renewable by 2025. We're not going to be using this gas. What we have is this idea to use it because ESSO is flaring, and the World Bank wants to dismantle Guyana's laws, which already make that flaring illegal, and allow ESSO to flare until 2030 under their so-called zero flaring initiative, which is not a zero flaring initiative, but a let's flare until 2030 initiative. The Guyanese people need to be very, very careful when they hear that the World Bank is involved in anything. The gas project in Ghana, the Sankofa project, has burdened the Ghanaian people with gas that they don't want and that they have to pay for every year. So in my view, the gas to shore project is a non-starter economically and environmentally.
Oh my. I think she was pellucid. I don't think I have to explain what she said there. That's a Guyanese born, has turned an international lawyer. Her name is Miss Melinda Janke. How? Wow. You heard how Miss Janke responded to these morons, in which she says bringing gas to shore is economically and environmentally irresponsible. Big words, but simply means it can't make money and will destroy the entire environment at the same time. She said it will not only result in massive debt to the country, but it is illegal. Janke said too that the laws of Guyana require that before going ahead with this project, you must have to do an environmental study. And that was not done. She said, without that single study, the whole project should be scrapped. And she didn't talk about the real study, the money study. She just asked about the financial feasibility study. She spoke about the environmental study alone. She also had to teach David Patterson that gas is not clean energy. She don't know who talking this myth, this nonsense. The lady said that gas got methane, which can leak and is 80 times more dangerous than carbon dioxide. What has come from the same heavy fuel we use in a GPL right now to generate power. Janke reminded Patterson that his government was going to 100% clean energy. That is water, solar, and wind by 2025. She said, Guyana, tell the world in a legal document. You hear this? The lady said Guyana tell the world, that David Patterson government tell the world, if them get the money, then we'll get that done by 2025. Give us solar energy. The government said they couldn't get the money, so it didn't happen. It can't happen. But hear this. All of a sudden, you now hear they're finding money to do this lunatic gas to shore project. Is she says so. The international lawyer says so. Not Glenn Lall used that word. Y'all heard her herself. 400 million US dollar for a pipeline that is very dangerous. Not me, she. When she did that interview, the government had announced 400 million, but now it meet $800 million. You see the difference? From December to now, that's why the lady mentioned 400 million. But now the thing reached to 800 million and still counting. She too, like Mr. Zanzilu, the financial expert, is asking Patterson, is asking Guyana, where is the financial study that shows that natural gas is better for Guyana than solar? Is everybody asking that question? Where is the financial study? Jagdeo refused to answer that. Patterson them didn't even say a word about that. She said, people complaining already that this thing is discriminatory. It will only give electricity for people who live on the coast. And the rest of Guyana ain't got nothing to get. She stressed that while electricity is going to the coast alone, all Guyana will have to pay, including the Amerindians, who wouldn't be getting not a bulb in their house on this project. That's how the discriminatory thing came in. She said, we're going to take this loan for bring this project only to surface the coastal land, not the Amerindians, not out of Essequibo, Barbisa, or Demerara. But those people have to pay the loan. She says that's unfair and discriminatory. She's asking what kind of foolishness that is. She said, although the gas is free, we got massive expenses on the pipeline and other infrastructures to get the gas here. And another set of money to turn it into electricity. That is the power plant she was talking about. The lady said, before you even do the project, you got to first figure out what kind of gas you're dealing with and the cost. She said, and you hear that very clear, she asked Minister Barrett, not Minister Barrett Jagdeo, not Minister David Patterson. She said she asked Vikram Bharat, the new minister, and he ain't even know. He said he got to check back. She got to check back to see what type of gas they're going to use. It's the same thing he just tell them reporters. He just tell them, man, you have to check back with me. He did get back to her, according to Ms. Janki. But tell she, the questions are too technical in nature, and we'll answer them later. Gosh, baby. Oh, I think I got some water here, man. The lady said, how in the world you can possibly do a gas to shore project and you not know what gas you use? You know, it's like you're hungry and you go in a mango field and you ain't know which mango you're going to eat or which mango you're going to fetch out from the yard. So it seems to her that Exxon forcing Guyana to take the gas because they got to burn it. Not because Guyana needs the gas, it's because they want to force it on Guyana, the lady says. And I said that many times ago, that the gas is garbage. If it had money, Exxon would have given it. Exxon would have made money off it. But they're burning it. This woman, who is a Guyanese by birth, like I said, is also an international lawyer. And she pointed out that Guyana's laws prevent Exxon from flaring. And the World Bank is pushing Guyana to change the law to allow them to flare till 2030. Or we can take the garbage, the gas. That is what the World Bank doing. Pushing Guyana for change the law. The lawyer warning all of us to be careful, to be very, very careful when dealing with the World Bank. It's the same World Bank that tie up Ghana with Exxon and the gas to shore project. I spoke about this in a program a while ago, in which I said Ghana was losing 500 million US dollar a year. And now they're losing about 200 million a year, all because of the contract Exxon and the World Bank pushed Ghana into. You can Google that. That's very clear for all of us to see. They work in to bind you, to rob you. That's what they do. The exposure of the gas project that the World Bank put Ghana in forced them to come out and say, Ghana, we made a mistake. World, we made a mistake. But Ghana, still suffering today, paying for the gas, what I'm have to throw away for the World Bank mistake. Let me go on to explain more what Melinda Janke said. She said, in her view, the gas to shore project is a non-starter economically, meaning it would not make any profit. It makes no money, no sense whatsoever. She said that I would want to tell you all this project is worse than a non-starter. For me, is a no thinker and no brainer. In the market, they listen to what's going on with these leaders, they will make a better decision. Please play back Mr. Patterson, the song he's singing.
Right. I want to make this as quick as possible.
Yes.
From my knowledge, Melinda was associated gas, but obviously the new administration may have different ideas of what associated gas and non-associated gas is. I thank Valerie for her comments. I think Melinda missed them on the question of clean energy and pollutants and those things like that, and I endorse that. On the question of renewable energies and the question of the powering Guyana is quite a large country. For your views, it's about the same size as Great Britain. And Valerie and Melinda and Tom, you're all absolutely correct. A gas to shore project will only benefit the interconnected grid, which is which is about half of our regions. Currently, right now, in the 2020 budget, I know that for sure because I particularly signed it, there are 4 hydro projects to address hinterland communities, 4 solar farms to address these areas. The idea was always the larger population centers, you know, in the towns that you have Letem, Madia, Mabaruma, Bartica, they're going to be powered by renewable energies, and the transition to a renewables green state will have started from the in the hinterland regions and coming towards the coast, because obviously the energy requirement for those areas, for those communities are far less. So there is an existing hydropower going on in the village of Kaieteur. So the large population centers outside of Georgetown will be, I reckon, sometime before 2022, 2023, powered by hydro or renewable energies. The question of the transition, Thomas and Melinda, of from us going to renewable energies, that there is a study. It's available, and Melinda, if you haven't seen it, I'm willing to send it to you. It is online. And it does address the question of how we can transition from right now brown fuel to clean fuel. I know it is to be what's clean fuel, as well as go to 100% renewables. The major issue, I would say, Melinda, that you have to know that the hydro and the renewable energy capacities of our country lie in the hinterland, in the region 8 and region 9. The hydro, they are in region 9, in those areas. That's where our hydro potential. It is tremendously costly. You're talking about $400 million for pipe. It is tremendously costly to bring to set up a medium scale hydropower and then get the power to our centers in Guyana. The Mila Falls project, which was started, that's $1.2 billion over an 8-year period if we actually start today. So obviously, and in the interim between starting and having power brought to shore, hydropower brought to the urban centers, we still have to cater for the needs of the Guyanese people. The studies which you can look at, Melinda, show that 40% of any cost that we would do will go into transmission and distribution. On the question of Thomas, on the question of Guyana having the capacity to negotiate an economic contract, and I absolutely agree with you. And we were not at the stage of us entering an economic contract. We had asked for help, support in doing that, but I was very convinced that as a transition of fuel, that it would be, long as the contracts and the regulations were in place, it would be beneficial to the country. Otherwise, there is a study once again, which is available online as well. I'm surprised it's not seen, which shows it gives us the various alternatives in comparison. If we continue with using HFO and LFO to fund and to work on our engineers, how much it would cost us vis-a-vis trying to use the natural gas. So we were not at a position of negotiating the economic thing. What we were doing is trying to see if it's technically feasible, which it was, which it is, and how we can do this. And then obviously we are seeking help to get it done. Yeah. So right now, as you know, there is about currently about almost 60 megawatts of renewable energy, which will be in place by 2025. That's the date that we give Melinda. The date His Excellency gave, 2025, was extremely ambitious. But obviously, he is the president, and I obviously didn't question it, but he did have a caveat, funding available. And unfortunately, the funding is not available to transition to 100% renewable energy by 2025. The energy mix transition that we have carries us up to 2037. Maritime, you're saying by then, we should be able to move as a country further and closer to the goals of going 100% renewable. So those are my comments, and the regulations, we mean, obviously, we at the time we were looking at several different upgrades. I mean, I do hope that I was still on, including the regulations of administering the gas project. The EIAs, I mean, I know that was raised with the EPA before August, before the new administration for the gas to power. The question of grid stability, the question of opt-in powers, opt-in tariffs, and those things like that. All of those were being done and were in some level of almost completed. But once again, I mean, you'd have to ask the new administration what's the current direction that they will be carrying the industry and the sector.
You guys heard him.
For those of you that just joined, you are listening to the Glenn Lall Show on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM with your host, Mr. Glenn Lall himself, of course, and I am Sue-Ann Wickham, your moderator for tonight.
Back to trying to fit in layman's term what David Patterson said just now. He accepted what Zanzilo have said, that he don't believe that Guyana is in a position to negotiate a contract with Exxon. I had to laugh when I heard that. Patterson, after telling Guyana that all electricity what we produce does come from oil, also end up accepting that a lot of the electricity in the country actually coming from solar and hydro. Even the own government put money for that. So like, this man don't really know what he's talking about. You know, when you're cornered, you just stark out your head because of the crap they're trying to pull on the people. This is why they don't have a press conference and come with data. Patterson also said that government did studies to find out if the gas project can be built. They never do a study to show if it can make a profit or if it's viable. He said they do a study to know if it can be built. You know, any idiot know that you can build a spaceship to go to the moon. That don't mean you're gonna make profit or you're gonna be feasible. You can build anything. The man got these people, whenever you hear them, sometimes I want to feel they're going out ahead. He said they expect 60 megawatts of electricity from solar by 2025. That's what he just said. So if you get in this by 2025, and Guyana only using half, Guyana is using 125, which is half of the wattage. What kind of billions y'all really going to borrow for spend when you're already getting half the amount of electricity that is cheaper via solar? This thing doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Play the next part of Zanzilo.
You know what you've really spelled out here is a recipe for financial bankruptcy for Guyana. What you're doing here is, if you take a look at it from a point of view of how you handle money and debt, is you're simply taking what might be any amount of surplus that you're getting from oil, which is going to be minuscule in my view and quite different from what you think, and you're going to put it into an expensive natural gas project. And you're going to be one way or another just transferring the money. And let me go back to the prize that I think I understand and we don't disagree with, is that you're trying to close your deficit, you're trying to build your sovereign wealth fund, and you're trying to spend on some new areas, which I hope is not exclusively energy. I don't think I've seen in any of your planning documents. But what you just did was you just took all of your profit and put it into a natural gas scheme, or whatever it is, just on the debt level. So you've really created a situation where you're not only not making enough money on your oil because you're willing to accept this contract that is highly lopsided, but you're then going to take whatever resources you get and give it back to the fossil fuel interests and not be able to take care of your country. I mean, yeah, I see. This is a debt. This is made up. This is a deal made up by fossil fuel interests and bankers, and it's not in your best interest. I'm, I have a lot of respect for the trouble that you're facing and the issues that you're facing, and the fiscal. But you got the fiscal aspect of this backwards.
Man say you got the money issue backward. Yeah, Lord, what the financial experts say. The man said this deal is a recipe for financial bankruptcy. You hear that? Bankrupt. The man said you can't take the oil money you're getting from a lopsided contract and throw it into a bottomless pit. The man said you're trying to lower your debt, save some oil money for the future, and spend in new areas all at the same time with the 2 pennies you're getting. He tell Patterson what them doing to Guyana is taking all the little profit and put it into a natural gas scheme or whatever it is. It's a scheme. Y'all hear the man say this natural gas is a scheme? Yes, it's a scheme. It's just a case of handing back the few pennies you get from the oil into the oil company's hand, which will put us in further debt. That is what the man actually saying. The little money you're getting from the oil is going to go back right to the oil companies, and you will end up in more debt. It simple means we got to pay Exxon for the pipelines, and we plus the infrastructure onshore for make the electricity. But the man say you're going to be paying back the same penny where you're getting from the oil for the pipeline alone. He said this is a debt trap that the oil company and them the bankers, what does lend you money, does make up. The answer, it is not in our best interests. It's no way. Whatever they do it together to make you the loser. He said, you understand this situation Patterson and Jagdeo wants to put the country in, but them got the money part backwards. Play the next piece of song, let him hear.
First of all, it's a very difficult thing to operate in an environment where you have such a great deal of ignorance from people who are in the newspapers every single day. So we've explained this. These questions were posed to me at the press conference. And I said, look, in 2016, this decision should have been made. Exxon had done a technical feasibility. So it's technically feasible. You can find engineering solutions for it. Now, the financial feasibility is a no-brainer for anybody who has a modicum of sense, a tiny bit, even a residual brain, a little bit of a brain, would understand that if you are now generating power at 12, 13 cents per kilowatt hour, with the current price of fossil fuel, one time it was 20 cents per kilowatt hour. You're selling power at 30 cents per kilowatt hour. That if you can have power supplied at 7, 8 cents per kilowatt hour, then a madman would make the decision to do so. And that is what this opportunity offers us, to cut the cost of generation by 50% from its current level. And this leaving out the possibility of escalation of fuel. In 2012, it was 20 cents. What else do you need if you can get power at half the price at which you're generating. That would allow us to cut the cost that you sell it at probably half by half. If you can have power at 15 cents per kilowatt hour, which is still very high, but rather than 30 cents per kilowatt hour, do you know how it will change the lives of people and the business community here? Projects that are not viable now because of power costs will become viable. New industries will open up here, a whole range of stuff. So on the financial feasibility, it's a no-brainer. For Christ's sake, you just have to think it through for a couple of minutes. And that is what we're aiming for with the pipeline and the price of the gas, even if you include that, and the repayment of the pipeline. It would work out about 7 to 8 cents per kilowatt hour, which is way below at what we're generating, and even cheaper than the mile at that time. So that's on the financial feasibility. Then location, Floyd.
All right, that was our Vice President, Dr. Jagdeo. He said those words on an online program he had. He's a financial guru. I am not going to explain that. I explained what he said before, but I wanted him to answer those oil experts, Melinda Janke and the financial man, Dr. Tom Zanzillo. I forgot to tell you that when Mr. Zanzillo finished speaking, Patterson accepted that the man is an expert, and he said he's not an expert, he's nothing. And he went on to ask the man, now after all of this, what is the alternative? That's what he asked the man. At this stage, when they were going full boat, he's asking the man, what is the alternative? Guyana, brothers and sisters, you heard that song. We have more gurus, financial gurus, who pushing this gas project. Patterson say he think is a viable project. Remember? He think. Yes, he think. Yesterday, another financial guru named Floyd Haynes, he just be on the program with Jagdeo, working out of Washington, D.C. He gave a lengthy interview with the Stabrook News. Man, you guys got to read to see the fancy terms and language he used singing this gas project song. At the end, when the reporter asked him if he believes this project will be a success, guess what he said? He think so. Yes, he also think so. Think. He think we will win. As for our vice president, you heard him. You just heard him. He said he don't have to think at all. He said he know. He ain't got to think. He said a man with a little brain like me don't have to think, much less he with all the brain in the world. He no brainer to think. It's the same thing he did say with all them other projects he headed and wanted to throw and did throw on us. You guys remember the hydro falls? Yes, the Amelia hydro falls. We would have been in over $1.5 billion US today had that come true. The Skeldon plant, he think. The Borbees Bridge, he think. The Marriott, he think. The same airport we're building, he think. And so many other projects, he think Them would have work. They would have bring money to this land. Where are they? He should come out and answer those questions. Everything they do, he should come out and talk. Because he was the man behind all those projects. Now he telling y'all that anybody with a brain don't have to think. Yes, there's a magician we have. The financial guru we have in this land. Vice President Barajagdeo. You know, all the projects that I spoke about here, including this one that is coming here, well, this one is the largest. This would be the largest point this country will ever see. And that is not what I think. That is not what I know. That is what I believe. You have anything else to play? Play that. Listen to this last
Thank you very
piece
much, Kiana.
with our Guyanese lawyer and an international lawyer.
Thank you very much, Kiana. In terms of the oil curse, I'm not going to say very much about that because others have covered it. And really, there is no country that has escaped the oil curse. So if you don't want the oil curse, then you don't do oil. You don't build a country's future on a declining market. In terms of what should people do, we have strong laws in this country that protect the Guyanese people, protect the Guyanese environment, protect the Guyanese economy from the abuses of oil and gas development. And I know that David said that, the Environmental Protection Act is 1996. Yes, it's 1996. It also happens to be visionary. It also already covers the impacts of oil and gas. You don't have an Environmental Protection Act that deals with oil and gas. You have an Environmental Protection Act that deals with the impacts of development, of which oil and gas is merely one subset. We don't have one for gold, we don't have one for agriculture, we don't have one for wildlife, we don't have one for timber. Because you look at the impact on the environment. Is there an impact on the climate? It's covered in the Environmental Protection Act. Are there impacts on the oceans? Covered in the environmental impact, covered in the Environmental Protection Act. Is there public participation? Yes. Public rights to information? Yes. Do the public have a right to say what conditions they want on the environmental permits? Yes. It's all there. Right now, under the Environmental Protection Act, the permits for Liza 1, Liza 2, and Payara look to me to be illegal because they did not meet the requirements of the Act. We're hearing about the dumping of the produced water. That should not have been allowed, and that's a failure by the Environmental Protection Agency. When you look at the EIA, it says things like, the most commonly observed fish is the unidentified flying fish. Which competent agency would accept that kind of nonsense? So the problem is not in the legislation. The problem is the refusal to implement the legislation and the failure and refusal of successive governments, because we're not being party political here. Successive governments have failed to give the EPA the resources that it needs. And this $185 million that is sitting in a fund somewhere, a good chunk of that should go into the EPA to ensure that they can regulate what ExxonMobil is doing, Exxon and its partners, and protect Guyana. We have good legal grounds for saying that the oil and gas is already being regulated, is already covered in the legislation. That's why the World Bank wanted Exxon's lawyers to dismantle Guyana's Environmental Protection Act, because it puts a brake on what ExxonMobil and the other oil companies can do. We stopped that. The lawyers are no longer involved in that project, but it's going to take a lot more than that. There are good legal grounds to say that this $460 million in pre-contract costs, that there's no legal basis for it. It's not covered by Section 10 of the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act. I asked the minister what he's relying on, no answer. The petroleum agreement, there are grounds for challenging provisions in that. I already told you that the flaring is illegal. It should be challenged in court. The environmental impact assessments are inadequate. They don't meet the law. Now, the Constitution of Guyana says sovereignty belongs to the people who exercise it through their elected representatives. When the elected representatives fail the people, then the people need to act. We have strong laws. The important thing now is for people to use those laws before the governments decide to dismantle them. It's really important that people now use the laws that are there and don't allow anybody to tell them that they don't have rights, because they do have rights. They have rights to information, rights to participation, and if they don't like the results of what is going on, they have the right to go to court and stop it. And as you know, recently we went to court and the permits were reduced to bring them in line with the existing regulations. So it's really important that people understand, if you want to protect Guyana from abuse by the oil and gas sector, you are going to need to go to court to do it.
Okay, listeners, we have someone in studio here that has a question to ask. So you can go ahead.
Yeah, Glenn. First of all, I want to know why is the government so hell bent upon this project, this gas to show project? It's like again you see a orange, so to speak, in the market. It's rotten, but yet you're going to purchase it knowing that you have no use for this orange. Why they so hell bent?
Well, you see, all the projects, these governments, successive governments, let me use Miss Melinda's word, these guys only embark on projects for one reason, to see what is there for them rather than the people. You know, and these projects, these large projects, is everybody want to get into it. They either want to put the name to it or they have something to get from it. So they don't care about the people. Governments, like I said, these governments we have in this country is not working for the country, it's not working for the people. They're working for themselves. But I want to touch on something Melinda just said. She said that she believed that the government should take a big chunk of the 185 million US to fix our EPA. I think they should take all of the 185 million US we have sitting in the fund,
The reserve.
and put it there to safeguard and to protect Guyana. Guess what? Listen to this and you will understand how these governments operate. The EPA got peanut money to run ExxonMobil. Peanut money, cake shop money for control and regulate ExxonMobil and the oil companies. Can you believe that? So you really believe that this government or the previous government want to really see good for Guyana? No, they're stifling the industries and the agencies and the government companies that really has to police these projects. But instead, man, a pity I didn't have the figures. You gotta see the figures, what they budgeted for the various agencies, and EPA get money for buy sweet drink and cake, while other agencies what does nothing for the people of this country or can ever do anything for the people of this country is getting in the billions, in the hundreds of millions. Yeah? Okay. 609? Yes. So you understand? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
How much money did they get?
They got $609 million in this budget and $30 million for capital expenditure.
Yes. That's just 3 million US. You need helicopters, you need boats, you need so much. Listen, if the EPA wants to go check anything on the rig out there, ExxonMobil have to take them there.
So then it's like the end of the day for I'm patrolling. Let me put it this way. I'm the police.
And you
got the thing illegal. So when I come in, I gotta come and tell you I come in.
Yes.
Get you transportation, pick me up,
exactly,
checkpoint.
Exactly.
Which in they don't make no sense.
It's exactly that.
That doesn't make no sense at all.
The police is like the police.
the police gotta negotiate with the thief.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
tell the thief to come in and the thief gonna lend you his captor or
Yes,
his thing.
yes.
So he could bring you
That's right.
for come and check point if you see like show everything
no,
in
it-
there.
it's like the police come in. It's like the thief man. The thief man got the booty in the house.
Oh boy,
You understand? And the police never get the thief man vehicle to come
and
search
check.
his house. That's what is going on.
Oh.
That's how simple it is. It's a kind of crazy set of leaders we have.
Help us.
You just listen to the leaders, and let me tell you something. They can confuse you with fancy language and fancy words. If you listen to David Patterson, you ain't understand nothing if you ain't got a good head on. And it's the same thing with Jack Davidem. This is why they're not holding press conferences anymore. You understand? Earlier I talked about Joseph Harman and Ramjatan. They're begging the US ambassador for the PR work for the opposition. So they're ashamed to face the media because they know what they're doing. It's not only illegal, but it's wrong for us as a people.
I say thank God for the Kaieteur news, right, for more than one reason. And thanks to you, Brother Glenn, for doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
For more than one reason. Reason being, if it wasn't for you, I tell you, I'd be last. And as you rightfully point out, if it wasn't for Granger, we wouldn't know nothing about this deal.
Exactly.
So you gotta give praise to where praise is due.
Exactly.
Right? I was listening back Jack's speech just now in the car, and it was like he sent peanut for brain and make this thing sound so easy. But when you listen to Miss Melinda Junkie, you get a full understanding of what is transpiring in this country.
Exactly. It's like what Jack Dave telling you is that, hey, you know what? Go and buy a Mercedes Benz, man. You're gonna make money overnight.
Wow.
But put your house, pan your house, your rice field, your farm and everything to the bank, and go buy a Mercedes Benz. You're gonna make money with it without knowing if you got passenger to fetch.
Not a clue.
That's what these guys telling you. All right. So anything else we have? It's kind of late, so we don't want to take any phone calls. Please leave your phone calls for Friday, and I'll gladly try to answer them. So I just want to end by telling all of you a special phrase from a man named Barack Obama, President Barack Obama. The man says, education is not a name of any degree or certificate that can be thrown or shown to others as proof. Education is the name of our attitude, our actions, our behavior, and language that comes with real life. I guess he had a long time thinking, just like our leaders, thinking to put those words together. Have a good night, and God bless you all. Thank you for listening.